Welcome into the newest edition of Caught Stealing, the fantasy baseball podcast here at Fantasy Alarm. I'm Colby Conway at Colby R. Conway over on X, and right over here, Matt Selz at the Selz Man over on X. Obviously, you can also find him in the Fantasy Alarm Discord answering baseball questions. So if you're not a member of the family and an all-pro subscriber, what are you waiting for? Jump on in there, get inside the brain of Matt Selz, pick the prospect report apart, ask some questions that you have there, talk to everyone else that we got. So we hope to see you there. But Matt, we'll talk about your prospects in a little bit. But first, we got to exchange pleasantries as we always do in the beginning, since we haven't talked since or at least talked on air for about a week. So how's everything going for you?
Pretty good. We got some scintillating mid-season NL wild card playoff series going on between my wife's team and my team, the Nats and the Diamondbacks. Game 3, the rubber match of that series is about to start as we're recording this. It'll start in about an hour. So pretty exciting, right? That teams that are under 500 right now in June are fighting for wild card spots because the entire rest of the NL is terrible.
Yeah, that's where we're at. There's
The entire NL Central's within 8.5 games of each other. The Brewers have a 7-game lead. So 4 teams are within
Yep.
maybe actually I think it's 5-game lead over the Cardinals, but then everybody's within 8.5. So but about a week ago they had a 7-game lead and everybody was within 7.5 games. So that's a fun division.
It sure will be. And it's wide open right now. And, we're coming into that time of year where we can start getting into, we're at the point where it's not early. It's not too early to talk about the trade deadline,
Yes.
some speculation, some candidates. Maybe we'll start kind of looking at that next week and maybe some preemptive ads that fantasy baseball managers can make. A lot of times what we often see is look at guys, for example, like in Pittsburgh. We talked about now, I think for 2 years in a row, we expect Bednar to be traded. It hasn't been the last 2 years. If Chapman is available, maybe you look at him unless they move him.
Would it be hilarious if this is the year when he's had like his worst statistical first half of his career that now he gets traded?
Yeah, probably.
That would be the most Pittsburgh thing ever.
Yeah, I hear you. We don't have to call it. We can. That's something we think, but don't say, Matt.
It's more Pittsburgh than a pierogi. How about that?
Fair enough. And we can see a lot of times we'll see it with relievers, and there will be other players that gain some value. We'll actually talk about one here in a little bit that I think there's a lot of interesting moving parts with him, but we'll talk about that particular trade candidate in a bit. But Matt, let's go with this. Back-to-back days. Actually, I think it was within I don't even know, within 24 or 48 hours of one another.
24
Mookie
hours
Betts.
of each other. Yeah.
Mookie Betts takes a pitch to the hand. Aaron Judge takes one to the hand the next day, right before Garrett Cole Day when he was making his season debut. But a little different outlook for these two. Mookie Betts heads to the IL, expected to be out for 6 to 8 weeks. While it seems like Aaron Judge avoided a major injury, didn't play yesterday, but it sounds like he was fighting to get in there, so wouldn't be too concerned about his long-term outlook here. But let's talk about Mookie Betts. Obviously, you're not replacing Mookie Betts either in reality or fantasy. You're hoping to get by for a little bit. Any concern with him upon his return? 6 to 8 weeks seems like it could be enough time. We talk about hand injuries can impact the power a little bit upon their return. But any concern really with Mookie Betts past, once he comes back, do you really have any concern with him?
No, not really. I will say it's a left hand. So for a right-handed hitter, that's just guiding the bat more so than, the power is kind of coming from the back. The back shoulders of the right hand kind of has more of the power through the swing. Less concerned with a hand than I would be if it was a wrist, right? We've talked about wrists, the hamate bone before. So not a lot of concern. I have more concern about the other injury that they suffered the same day, which was Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who said it was tricep soreness. It wasn't bad enough to take him out, according to the trainers, but then the game started and it was bad enough to take him out, and then it turned out that it was a strained rotator cuff. And Dave Roberts said, it's not season ending. Okay, good, but why are you putting that phraseology out there in June, man? That's not good mojo. So he'll be out, 6 to 8 weeks, I think is what we saw. One of them was 4 to 6 and one of them was 6 to 8. And I can't keep
Mookie 6 to 8.
Okay, so we'll see what happens with Yamamoto. I think 4 to 6 probably on the lighter side.
Yep.
But with Walker Buehler going back on the IL, they need all of the arms they can possibly get their hands on.
I was just going to talk about, because the last time I noticed it, there was a report that they were talking about what to do with Walker Buehler to try to basically get right what the plan was going to be. And
Maybe widen his pants. Maybe the tight pants are causing problems.
I should have known. I should have known. I saw the post. No longer tweet anymore. I saw the post that they were going to evaluate with what to do to try to get Walker Buehler right. And all we've talked about in years past are these phantom IL stints that the
Yes.
Dodgers seem to love to use. And Buehler went on the IL with what's being called as right hip inflammation. I don't know if that's the culprit. I don't know if he
Yeah.
actually has hip inflammation.
Again, loosen the pants and your hips won't be so tight.
He has
Just
not looked
saying.
good. He has not looked
No,
good of late. Like,
he's not looking for a while.
yeah. Well, and the other thing too is what are you getting from him from fantasy? At the very least, there's sometimes where people can be struggling, and it's like, well, he at least got 7 strikeouts in 4 innings. Bueller's not even striking anybody out.
He hasn't missed bats in 3 years.
Yeah.
Like his rookie year was great, and then the first half of his second year was great, and then he stopped missing bats, and then he got injured, and then he waited 6 months to get the surgery everybody knew he needed, and now he's prolonged that because it's taken him longer to come back from Tommy John than most people, and now it seems to be taking longer because he's back, but not really back, but not missing bats, and yeah, it's not. It's not great. I'm pretty sure it's a Phantom IL spot just so that he can kind of work on stuff behind the scenes and not in the pressure cooker of games with the Dodgers trying to beat everybody in the NL West again. I'm with you. I think these IL stints are I don't know. It's hard to prove that somebody's actually cheating with these, but wasn't it a couple years ago a team did get in trouble for IL issues?
Wasn't
Like
it the Mets last year?
the GM of the Mets
Yeah.
got suspended, right? Um, for use of IL stints and whatever. Can we look into the Dodgers, please? I'm just saying.
Yeah, honestly, it's popped up a little bit. We saw the name float around in Discord. I think in 10-team leagues, even prior to the injured list, I don't even know if Bueller's worth it. Honestly, that's what is he
No,
doing for you? If you're in a points league, points are predicated on strikeouts. He's not doing that. And if you're in Roto, I don't know what he's doing other than hurting your numbers at this point.
and now without Betts, the offense is questionable, so it's wins are tougher.
Yep.
I mean, I
Now
know
speak.
it's still the
Yeah,
Dodgers, but still.
absolutely. And speaking of the Dodgers too, Yamamoto might miss or is going to miss some time. Bueller's going to miss some time
Kershaw's not back anytime soon.
and with Buehler, it's either a hip injury or he's just not pitching well right now and they're throwing him on the IL. Dodgers are going to be involved. Dodgers are all in on titles for the next basically decade. That's what they're doing. It's all in on titles, trying to get as much as they can. Garrett Crochet of the White Sox is a popular name that's coming up in trade talks. Now, here's the thing. There's a lot of moving parts here. We'll
Yeah.
probably talk about Crochet a little bit more as we get to the deadline. But here's a couple things to consider with Crochet, both in reality and in fantasy. I talked about this in Discord with someone recently. If I'm not mistaken, as of right now today, we're recording this on June 20th, Garrett Crochet is already at a career high workload in the majors.
I believe so. I can double check this, but yes.
Yep, as of
pretty
today.
sure the innings,
So
88 and 2/3 innings as of we are recording this, and that is, yeah, that's easily the most. The most he'd previously thrown in the MLB in a season was 54 and a third in 2021. If you take his entirety of his MLB career prior to this, it doesn't even add up to 88 and 2/3.
yep. So that's something to consider. How much longer can he go? Now, he's been very, very good. Wins are bad right now in Chicago. Figured he's going to get traded to a contender. Wins should be better. But at what point do they start skipping starts to monitor the workload? Because if a team trades
Although in
for him,
fairness, he does have 6 wins.
yeah, fair. But if a team trades for him, you want to preserve him a little bit. You don't want to run him through 165 innings this year, basically doubling his career or like quadrupling his career high effectively. So how does that come into play? And then also, I hate to kind of beat a dead horse and kick someone while they're down, but at some point we kind of have to potentially discuss the ineptitude of the White Sox front office. Do they make the deal? Can they make the right deal? And maybe it's not the front office. Maybe it's just the stigma around the White Sox. Do they make the move? Do they make the right move at the right time? That's another thing here
They've
that we
not
kind of
been
have to
able
evaluate.
to seemingly do that for about a decade,
That's what I'm saying.
right? Um, I mean, going all the way back to getting big game James for Fernando Tatis Jr.
Yep.
Like, sure, when they traded Tatis, he was a 17-year-old unknown, but it doesn't look so. I mean, we could go back and say every team's made a trade
Oh, for sure.
like that, right? Not
For
to
sure.
pick on but the White Sox have over the last decade have more of those types of deals than a lot of other teams. Um, I will say getting Drew Thorpe does look good for them
Hmm.
right now. Dylan Cease
Yes.
has cooled off. I don't know if anybody has noticed this, but his last like 5, 6 starts, he has not been good. He's been walking a lot more people. His ERA is way up. Um, the first half of his starts this year were great, right? Everybody goes, "Oh, look, he goes to San Diego, he gets fixed," and then the next 6, he looks like the Blake Snell replacement everybody thought he was going to be.
6.62 ERA with a 1.5 WHIP over his last 7 starts.
Yeah, so
There you go. So what
not
do you
great.
think? So what do you make? So from fantasy, we'll talk about Crochet's trade outlook more so. It's kind of related, but like in fantasy, the hard thing that I seem to be struggling with, especially when
I
kind of
would
talking about
I
it,
would
is
sell high right now on
that's
Garrett.
what I keep
Yeah,
coming back to. But he's so good right now. The fact is, if you every passing start that you wait, we're farther and farther past
correct.
his now. And also think about this: the Dodgers. Let's say he gets traded to the Dodgers. Let's fast forward. Dodgers trade a haul of prospects. It is what it is.
Yes, and by the way, whoever in Discord said that it was Ponch, like Chicago Ponch, you're getting perfectly fine prospects from the Dodgers.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, the White Sox front office goes, "No, I'm not taking any of your top 10." Then it's the White Sox fault.
Right.
But the Dodgers, at one point, I think last year, I said they could trade all 7 of their top prospects to the Padres for Juan Soto, and they'd still have the best farm system in baseball.
Yeah.
They're incredibly deep. So, in terms of the haul you would get from the Dodgers for Crochet, potential haul, there's a lot of really interesting pieces. It's up to the White Sox to select
The right ones.
the right ones.
Or
Right.
the quantity and quality balance
But
against one
I'm
another.
with you. I'm selling high on Garrett Crochet.
I
I
think there's a
know
world in keeping him.
what was that?
I think there's a world of keeping him. So, like for example, if you're looking to make a move to acquire a bat, if you have another pitcher that you can move. So, for example, there was one in Discord that I was talking with someone. They had their 4 frontline guys or 4 of their top guys, and they were looking to make a move for Trey Turner. That was the bat that just happened to be. The 4 guys were Joe Ryan, which I said I don't want to move. Then it was Gray Rod. Don't want to move him. And this is
Correct.
just redraft. And then the other 2 were Brian Wu and Garrett Crochet. And I came down to Wu because Wu's forearm scares the crap out of me. I have no clue what's going on with it. I don't know if he does. I don't know if Seattle has any clue. I
Okay.
settled in on moving Wu instead of Crochet because I think Crochet is quote unquote safer. The workload scares me. And I am worried because if a team trades for him, he's not going to be traded as like a 1-year rental. So they're not going to want to run him into the ground.
Right. Here's my thing. Is Wu easier to replace than Crochet? If Wu gets, I'm not wishing injury, but let's say the forearm doesn't get straightened out. Is Wu an easier guy to replace?
I mean, anybody who's healthy would be an improvement upon a not healthy guy.
Well, I mean, like for like healthy numbers versus healthy numbers. He's easier to replace than Garrett Crochet's healthy numbers to
I
non.
think if they're both at their best, I think Crochet is better.
Yeah. Because my problem is the workload leads to injuries, right?
Yeah,
Crochet was drafted in 2020. There was no minor league season in 2020, so it's not like he was drafted and then got some pro innings.
yeah,
There wasn't any, and then he didn't pitch, but like 54 innings. I mean, he did pitch in 2020, 6 innings in the majors in 2020 in relief. In 2021, he pitched 54 and a third innings and then got injured.
mhm,
And then he came back in 2023 and pitched a grand total of 25 innings.
yeah.
And now he's at 88 2/3. And he's got, what, 2.5 years of team control left? So you're right. If a team is giving up a haul of prospects to go get a guy who they think could be an ace who only needs to pitch in the third spot, they're not going to run him into the ground. The
Right.
Dodgers could run out a 7-man rotation at this point to keep everybody healthy.
And that could help. And that could help preserve the workload at least a little bit.
It could, but I may trade. I may trade high on Garrett. I mean, because if you can get a first round bat because somebody is desperate for an arm, go for it.
Yeah, I think the move can be made. I'm fine getting Trey Turner. I basically said when you look at, if let's just say I forget some of the other pitchers that they had in the question, but those, let's just say those were the top four. The last thing I'm doing is trading the more secure of the four, which are
Correct.
Ryan and Grayrod. I
Correct.
know I'm getting 170 innings, health willing.
Right. In between Wu and Crochet, I think you can make an argument, as we just did, for either one of them.
Yeah. But I think it's those two I'm dealing. I'm not trading one of my secure, stable ones and keeping two that I'm a little concerned about moving forward.
Yeah, and it's just in my opinion that it's easier to replace the numbers from Wu when he's healthy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's having a great year, don't get me wrong.
For sure.
But again, the FIP and xFIP all suggest he's not pitching nearly as well as the ERA suggests. For what that's worth, the Sierra for Wu is at 4.02 compared to a 1.67 ERA. So, and the strikeouts are not nearly as high as.
And come August 6th, I know what team Brian Wu's pitching for.
Yes, he's not.
I don't know.
Moved.
I don't. Yeah, and I don't know if Seattle's going to get any better at the deadline.
They're
or if
winning
they
the AOS. Do they have to get better?
Yeah. True.
They're
Good
in
point.
first.
Good point. Well, anyway, we spent a little more time than I thought there. So, of course, it's the weekly edition. We're going to talk a little patience or panic before we get into some waiver wire pickups and weekend streamers. But shameless plug, head over to fantasyalarm.com. Check out my injury report, Matt Sells' prospect report and rankings. Check out there, as well as all the other great content we have over at Fantasy Alarm. One guy I don't have mentioned in the injury report, not that he's injured, but there could be some thoughts of if he's maybe playing through something or playing with something. But the curious case of George Springer, 2020 last year, 25-10 the year before, hitting 250 plus. And now this year we got the batting average below the Mendoza line. His expected batting average is closer in line with years past. But while the expected batting average looks good, the quality of the contact significantly reduced. Would be career low barrel rate, would be career low average exit velocity, and would be his lowest launch angle since 2017, and would be career low contact or hard hit rate. What is it? What is going on with George Springer? Do you have patience? Do you have panic? I mean, at the very least, he does have 5 home runs and 8 stolen bases, but a 197 average and a 288 OBP and a sub 300 slug. It's simply not getting it done.
No, and a 266 WOBA. So it's not even like he's making it up for total impact there. I don't know. Like, part of me thinks, okay, he's 34. Maybe Father Time is starting to catch up with him a little bit because the slash line was worse last year than it was the year before. So year 30, when he went 25-14, hit 267, 342, 472. His entire slash line was worse last year. Now, more games. So theoretically, maybe had he played 20 more games in 2022, the slash line may have dropped a little, but now it's cratering.
Yep.
But here's the other thing. How many different Blue Jays have we talked about?
I was just going to say, is this a product of, Father
Like,
Time?
when does the hitting coach get fired? Like,
yeah.
Kevin Biggio is so bad, he got traded for literal baseball peanuts to the Dodgers, who, I don't know, trying another reclamation project with a super utility guy who can't hit. I don't know. Bo Bichette just got injured. Vladito has not been great for 2 years, right? He's been okay, but not great. Now you got George Springer, who isn't great. Matt Chapman went downhill. Yes, the power was there, but Matt Chapman went downhill
Hmm.
final 2 years in Toronto. Um, I I don't know. Is it an approach thing? Because if you look at the walk rate, it's higher, right? If he keeps this up, it's in line with his career bests. His strikeout rate, if he keeps this up, will be a career low strikeout rate. So he's walking more and striking out less, and yet not hitting over the Mendoza line.
Yeah, he's actually making more contact more often than not before and swinging more and whiffing less, generally
So
speaking.
is it a little bit of approach? Is it that the AL East pitchers are so much better than anybody else thought they would be that it's damaging only Toronto's offense? I
Yeah,
don't know. Like,
yeah. I'm panicking on Springer. I don't.
I am too. I am not waiting this out. I am panicking. There's got to be other outfielders that can at least get you some counting stats
Yeah,
and
I'd
a
look to
better
package him in
splash.
a deal. You probably can't trade him off or trade him like in a one for like an even 1-for-1 deal because you'll take a little bit back. But if you can like maybe use his name value, throw him in like a 2-for-1, and hopefully you can upgrade something, I'd be looking to do that.
Yeah, because I don't understand how walk rate goes up, strikeout rate goes down, ISO plummets, batting average plummets, slug plummets. You're playing in what was supposed to be a softball park, except since they've changed the moved the fences in, homers have gone down at the Rogers Center.
Yep.
It seems to have helped. They're playing in a smaller park, helped their pitchers. That like I don't understand that one at all. Things are upside down in Toronto. Let's just put it that way.
I think that's a good way of looking at it. We'll stay in the American League East. Let's take a look at Brayan Bello, a guy I really liked coming into the year. Strikeout ground ball guy. I tend to love that profile. But of late, last 7 starts, I'm looking here 6.27 ERA, a whip that's almost at 1.7 over his last 37 and a third innings, 17 walks and 46 hits. He's pitched a lot to contact. And when you look at recent starts just here in the month of June, 8 hits, 9 hits, 6 hits, 7 hits. Like he's a pitch to contact guy. There's about 4 to 5 strikeouts to start. So that's mixed in, but haven't really got the return that we were kind of hoping from Bello. And he's doing a lot of damage to ratios right now. Like in the month of June, if we just look at these 4 starts, 6.23 ERA with a 1.89 whip. It's gotten progressively worse. His whip has throughout the season, and the walks are trickled up. He's allowing a lot of contact. In points leagues, you might be able to stomach it a bit more, but in roto leagues, we're at the point, I think, with Bello, we're picking matchups. Lefties are giving him some fits. Maybe you try to find him against some righties, but I mean, you look, face Detroit, 8 hits, 4 earned runs. White Sox, 9 hits, 5 earned runs. Yankees, 6 hits, 4 earned runs. And then Toronto, of course, Toronto, 7 hits, 2 earned runs. Of course, he does a good one against Toronto because the AL East pitching only wreaks havoc on Toronto. So what do you make with Bello? I'm panicking and he's down as much as I loved him coming into the year. We have to adjust. We have to adapt. I think you got to stream him in matchups. I don't think you can just run him out there blindly every single time he starts.
I would tend to agree with that. I preseason in my home league, my home keeper league, I had Brayan Bello for a pretty good deal. I really didn't want to get rid of him. I did make a trade. I traded him for Cade Horton as a red shirt, so now I get more years of Cade Horton.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I thought I really didn't want to get rid of Bello. I'm kind of glad I did, to be honest. Sorry there, Justin. But yeah, I I don't know. I mean, you've said like strikeouts are still good. I'm still getting the strikeouts. Granted, not as I mean, it's a tick up from last year, not quite as high as the year before, but then again, that was only 57 and a third innings in 2022. So there's that. You're still getting decent wins because Boston's offense is
Mm-hmm.
better than I think we all thought it would be. Um, home runs have been killing them.
Yes.
And for a ground ball guy to give up 1.3 homers per nine is not this is not anywhere what you expected it to be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think I'm going to ride it out a little bit because, quite frankly, the pitching market is not great, and if he turns it around, um, you know, there's some hope there. Um, but I am starting to panic some with Bayo for sure because what we've seen hasn't been like he started off. He had a spurt in there where he went 4 straight starts of giving up 2 or fewer earned runs,
Mm-hmm.
but then he just went off the rails and gave up at least 3 earned runs in what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 straight. He was back to it, but then again, it was Toronto. So do we give him credit for cutting down Toronto, where we said we're
It
panicking
all
on
comes back to
everybody?
Toronto. It all comes back to Toronto.
Um, so I don't know. I mean, he gave up 5 earned to the White Sox for God's sakes. Like, so I'm waiting it out a little bit more with Bayo. The stuff is there. They have faith in him.
Mhm.
He was working off season with Pedro Martinez, which has to help, right?
Mhm.
Got to figure that out. But yeah, I'll wait it out a little bit more with Bayo.
Can't be surprised at the offseason work with Pedro and then seeing that his changeup usage is higher than it's been in the past couple
I
of
mean,
years.
that was, yeah. He just doesn't have Pedro's changeup. Though. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's
Like, if
a
you're gonna throw it more, it better be Pedro's changeup because that thing was. I mean, I'm pretty
yep,
sure it stopped halfway between the mound and the plate and just waited for people to swing and then kept going.
yep.
It was that good.
Yeah, and just words of wisdom to Bello. If you go to Baseball Savant and look at the heat map of his sinker, far too much middle of the plate.
Yeah,
That has
the
got to
sinker's
work to the
supposed to
bottom
be
of the zone.
down. It's not supposed to. You're
Yeah,
not supposed to start it high and have it sink to the middle.
yeah. We
Supposed
don't
to
want
start it
middle down.
middle and sink low, or start low and sink outside the zone. Man, that got to
Not
use your noggin. The more you know.
Not ideal indeed. And the last one here, lefty in the NL East with Jesus Luzardo. For the most part, things have been kind of okay. He had a dominant May,
Yeah,
phenomenal May in terms of the numbers. However,
he plays in Miami.
he plays in Miami, but Luzardo has 4 or fewer strikeouts in 5 straight starts. And here in the month of June, he's made 3 starts and he has 8 strikeouts in 15 innings. And he's faced the Rays, the Nats, and the Mets. We've talked about the Nats not being able to hit lefties. We've talked about that. The Mets are what they are, and the Rays are what they are. The
Yeah,
last
but
time,
was that after Grimace showed up for the Mets or before Grimace showed up for the Mets?
I believe the majority of these, uh, the 11th might have been the Grimace Day for the Mets. I don't remember exactly
Might
when
have
they
been
showed.
Grimace Day.
But here's the thing with Luzardo. This cannot happen for a guy with him. He has 3 starts
No.
this year with 7 or more strikeouts. He's a swing and miss guy.
Yes.
So if Luzardo's not getting strikeouts, now we have some lesser numbers, and it's simply at face value, 3-6 record. The record was just going to be what it was with Luzardo. That's up to the Marlins there. But a 5 ERA, a 1.2 WHIP, which I'm actually okay with the WHIP, but the less than a strikeout per inning after he racked up 208 in almost 180 innings last year. Not a positive return here for Luzardo. Do you see the strikeouts bouncing back at all? I'm panicking a little bit. I'm not really moving him. I'm going to ride it out, but I am not enjoying the dearth of strikeouts from this particular lefty.
I think May gave me hope because he was
Yes.
so dominant and so back to his normal self that we saw, for big chunks of the last 2 years. I'm riding it out, right? But I will say the strikeouts are so bad. His 7.83 K per 9 right now has lowered his career total to not, or his career average to 9.83. To give you an idea, he's posted a 12K per 9 season, a 9K per 9 season, 9.25, and then the last 2 years, 10.76 and 10.48.
Yep.
So to lower it by a significant margin is not great. He's got a 7.83 K per 9. Not ideal, but I am rolling with him. The May numbers give me hope that he can in fact be that strikeout and innings eating guy that both fantasy managers and frankly the Marlins need, because they're not getting any other help in that rotation at the moment. So I'm gonna ride it out with him. I will say if July is like June, if he comes into July and goes through the All-Star break like the last few starts in June, no bueno. I'm
Yep.
seeing what I can get for him.
I'm with you there. Matt, let's go ahead and wrap it up with a little waiver wire pickup and weekend streamer action. So who's someone that you're looking at on the waiver wire?
So on the waiver wire, I wrote this guy up in the prospect report this week. He's made 4 starts so far for the Braves. The first 2 were okay. The last 2 starting to show why he should stick up with the Braves. He's posted 6 innings the last 2 starts. It's Spencer Schoenbach. He came up the same time as Hurston Waldrop, and Waldrop showed I'm not ready, and Schoenbach said, "Nope, I'm good. Let's keep rolling." He's got a pretty solid K to walk ratio, as I pointed out in the prospect report. He's also starting to use his cutter more. So he's got 4 to 5 pitches, depending on how we view the two-seamer, cutter, whatnot. He's using that a little more, keeping guys off balance. That's good to see from a young pitcher. And while his 4.98 ERA isn't great, he has a 3.62 expected ERA and a 3.98 FIP, which is far better. He's also not getting hit all that hard either. He's got a 229 batting average against and a sub 30 hard hit rate, which is pretty nice to see. Yes, the Braves offense is struggling a little bit, but when you're getting quality starts, you've got shots to win. So that's the guy I'm looking for on the waiver wire, Spencer Schoenbach. He was rostered, I think, in less than 40% of Fantrax leagues.
If you needed help on the mound, take a look at Schwellenbach. If you need some power, take a look at Hunter Goodman. 762 slug over his last 7 games. He was a guy I talked about in the beginning of the season as a cheap power source. And now, I'll hear you out. In June, he's still hitting below the Mendoza line. I get it. However, if we look at the month of June, the expected batting average is at 225. That's more palatable. His expected slug is actually within 5 points, of his actual slugging percentage. So those numbers telling me the batting average should come up, but his slug has stayed true in terms of where his numbers are at. And average exit velocity over 90 miles an hour, 18.2% barrel rate, 50% hard hit rate, and a launch angle just under 25 degrees. You can talk about the quantity of contact. I'll hear you there, but quality has been good. And if he can catch a little hot streak, remember, half those games are at Coors, and that batted ball profile, if he can get it into that jet stream that seems to be up above Coors Field, he can be a nice little power source for you. And depending on your league, I do think he would carry dual eligibility potentially with outfield and first base. But that's a league dependent thing, obviously. So obviously we like our hitters at Coors, and we're at the particular point in the year, Matt, we joked about this before the season started, that sometimes streaming options, we look at guys at Coors Field more so due to the ineptitude of the Rockies, particularly against left-handed pitching. So now that I've teed it up, what southpaw at Coors Field are we looking at this weekend?
Yeah, we were talking about this before the pod, that it was hilarious. You were going to recommend a hitter at Coors, and then I'm streaming a pitcher against them. DJ Hers for the Nationals, lefty they got from the Cubs in the Jamer Candelario deal last year. He's coming off a 13K 0 walk showing in his last start, which is amazing considering the fact that he is known for control issues, right? The 0 walks is probably an outlier. He's not going to have 0 walks. Okay. But his strikeout stuff is filthy. He's been putting up monster strikeout numbers in the minors. The only thing that's holding him back is the walks, right? So good to see him with that. The Rockies historically struggle against lefties, whether it's on the road or at Coors. They are bottom 7 in the league since May 1st against lefties in WRC plus. They are also posting the 10th highest K rate versus lefties since May 1st in baseball. So, is Hers going to walk some guys? Is he going to give up some hits? Yes. But all we're looking for is like 6 innings, a decent strikeout, and, limit the damage. We were talking, if Goodman, if he goes 6 innings and gives up 2 earned, I'm hoping that it's Goodman with 2 homers. So you get the best of both worlds in this scenario.
You and me both on that one. And I'll look Friday. I'm going on the road at San Diego with Colin Ray of the Brewers. Good offense backing him there. 1.59 ERA so far in June with actually a sub 3.3 ERA on the year overall. He's definitely outproduced what I was projecting from him. And now San Diego does hit right-handed pitching well. I will give them that. But Ray is tougher on righties. So there's a little positivity there. And when you think about the presences in the San Diego lineup that can pack a punch, the ones that are going to come to mind are right-handed hitters. So let Luis Arias hit his little singles and do all that good stuff. But the righties that can pack a punch, I think Ray can neutralize them and have a good little outing, continuing his impressive and relatively surprising 2024 campaign. So take a look at those guys there. If you plan to play DFS over the weekend, head over to fantasyalarm.com and check out all the great DFS content. The injury report will be updated again on Friday, so check that out, and check out Matt's prospect report, as that is up on the site for who could be that next young guy that comes up and maybe helps our fantasy team over the next couple of weeks. And of course, if you're not a member of the family, join today. Do an all-pro subscription, get access to our minds in the Discord, ask questions, and it's not just Matt and I, it's everybody else that we got at Fantasy Alarm. And of course, like and subscribe. Last but not least, at Colby R. Conway over on X. Matt Selz is at the Salesman over on X. And we will see you 1 week from today with the newest edition of Caught Stealing.